All right, we're going to do a stream today on the iPhone 7 home button. So Vice wrote an article today, which was great, about the reality of iPhone 7 home button differences over the iPhone 6, 6 Plus, 6S, 6S Plus, and every home button since the dawn of the iPhone. The iPhone 7 home button does not have the same clicky little button that every other phone has. And the problem with that is that if you damage the home button during a traditional screen replacement where you have to transfer the home button, the native home button, from the cracked screen over to the new screen, if something happens and you damage that button in any way, then it's not as simple as just saying, oh, well, grab a new home button off the shelf and finishing the repair. You can do that for the 6, 6S, everybody else. You'll give up fingerprint sensor function because only Apple's calibration machine can marry the new fingerprint sensor to the logic board in order to enable you to have fingerprint sensor function. But the home button function was always intact. With the iPhone 7, you will lose both home button, clicky button. It's not going to work anymore. You're going to lose home button as well as fingerprint sensor. So that's a real drag because I think a lot of people can kind of accept or don't even use to begin with Touch ID, the fingerprint sensor. That's not that big of a deal. But to not have a home button, that's a real deal breaker. So the iPhone 7, just straight up screen replacement, is now really a lot more risky for shops because if something happens to the button during the screen replacement, you've really ruined the phone. Or if the phone comes in with a damaged home button, but there's no way to know that ahead of time because the screen is so cracked, then you're going to waste a lot of time and end up with a phone that doesn't work. So let's look at the iPhone 7 home button and kind of think, is there any way that we could do some sort of a repair to bring back or at least understand that clicky button, home button function of the iPhone 7? So what I have here is a brand new, just went to the Apple store today and got a brand new iPhone 7 so that we can fuck around with one and see what's going on. So this is my new iPhone 7, which like we took it out of the box just now and it had like fingerprints on this little plastic overlay. I thought that was kind of uncool. So I'm going to peel off this plastic doohickey. And I just a second ago set it up with my SIM, so it has my SIM in it. And you can tell that the home button is no longer a button. It's this sort of taptic engine, just like the Force Touch. All right, so we have home button function is working as well as fingerprint sensor function. Already wants me to do a software update. No, not happening. So let's find that fingerprint sensor function, and we can add a fingerprint. So fingerprint sensor function is working as normal, and I can set up a fingerprint. Okay, so we'll just kind of, yes, I know. Yes, cancel. No, cancel. Good boy. All right, so we've got that going. All right, so we're going to kind of put this to the side and come back to that. And first, we're going to look at an iPhone 7 home button that I just dissected a little bit ago. Let me move this around so that I can see chat today. And let's see, if I don't pay attention to the chat, it will scroll off my screen. So I'll try to keep up with that. Security, yeah, Michael Oberdick. So Michael Oberdick did a video, which you can go look up. I think it's on his YouTube channel, where he did a fantastic little video that shows if you take the home button, if you take two iPhone 7s and they both have working home buttons and everything works with the phone, you take the screen off and swap them, then the home button doesn't work. So the point is that there's a software lock where there's software that has to recognize your fingerprint sensor / home button in order for it to work at all. So you can't just switch one in like every other phone and have it just say, oh, it's not the right fingerprint sensor, so you can't have fingerprint sensor function. That's now true for both home button function and fingerprint sensor function. All right, haptic feedback, no clicky. I won't be surprised if Apple does the same thing to the power button. You can do iPhone screen repair on authorized Apple service repair for $175 and get your button fixed also. Yes, that's sort of the drag of it, is that Apple is monopolizing the ability to fix phones now, even though they don't really do anything other than screens and sometimes batteries. Now you really don't have an option other than to go to the Apple store to get your screen replaced if something has happened to your home button. Let's see. Jason is about to do a potential platter swap with his magic tape. All right. Hello, Jessa. Jessa looks like a big cat. What the fuck? Do I? I don't see that. You and Lewis are streaming at the same time again. Really? I just told him I was going to stream the 7 stuff. Okay, so I know he likes to stream on Friday night, so I'm not surprised. All right, let's look at the iPhone 7 home button that I have been taking apart here so that everybody can know what does the guts of this thing look like. All right, so we're under the microscope now. So this was tough to get into, but I persevered. All right, so this is kind of maybe the best way to orient you guys. So anybody that's done a screen replacement can recognize the iPhone 7 home button. This has kind of come off with a seriously cracked screen. And I picked this one because it was already torn when I got the phone. It's torn right here. So the flex is torn. And then I've left the flex attached to the screen here so that it will just be easier to work with. All right, so we see that there's the connector that's going to connect to the screen. And then this is the home button flex. And it kind of splits into 2 parts here. There's this sort of upper flex and a lower flex. Let me see if there's any way. Let me see if I can adjust this camera contrast or brightness, because that seems really low. Oh, that makes it worse. All right, let's see if I can adjust brightness. Oh. I think that's probably all I can get out of that. Okay, so let's see what's going on here. We've got these 2 flexes then. There's an upper one here, and then there's a lower one down on the board. And then they disappear into what is really difficult to get into, this metal welded on bracket. So my first try was to see if I could drill out these rivet welds or whatever those things are to lift this and see what's under there. And that ended up being impossible. So the only way into this button was through the other side. So what we're going to expect to see if I flip this over is the sapphire glass face of the home button, which I have destroyed and removed. So you can see this is what the home button looks like, and I have taken off that glass front of the home button. All right, so then what kind of a thing is this? So what do we have here? So this, if we look at it really closely, it's all destroyed now. If we look at it really closely, we can see that this is the fingerprint sensor itself. So this chip, and you can see it's got an incredibly detailed grid if you look at it really closely. And it looks like a big IC chip. And that's pretty much what it is. And then let's flip it over and see what's under there. So if we flip this chip over, well, there's nothing under there. This is just the bottom of the home button case. So that welded on bracket is really just making a little bucket for the fingerprint sensor to sit in. Now let's look at how the fingerprint sensor chip itself is attached to everything else. And here we can see this flex. So if we look at the flex comes up through a little hole, and it is adhered to through, if it's going to be the same as the iPhone 6 one that I dissected on my Error 53 video, it will be wire bonded to this chip in a way that is really not replaceable. So back in Error 53 days, the idea once was out there, could you actually replace this chip? You know, if this was your fingerprint sensor, could you replace it? And the answer is not. You really can't. You really couldn't get this thing off intact, functional in one piece, and then get it wire bonded to another flex. That's just really not a feasible repair. So here's your fingerprint sensor. So let's kind of go back and say, well, it makes sense that maybe home button, clicky button function would be separate, or maybe the taptic engine might be separate from the actual fingerprint sensor. And it's pretty clear that this is the fingerprint sensor here. So let's kind of follow those flexes again. So we're going to flip this back over, and let's see the big flex then, the one that's kind of down on the bottom layer, the larger flex. That larger flex is probably the fingerprint sensor flex. And it goes, and both of them, you can see both the little one and the bigger one are going into this hole. And when we flip this over, we can see that the big bottom flex is the one that's wire bonded to the fingerprint sensor chip. And then the little flex, here's the little flex. The little flex is just adhered to the bottom of the home button. So this is probably some sort of a capacitance sensing sensor pad maybe, or several sensors in there. And this is now how the home button works, through understanding that through capacitance that you put a finger on top of this entire thing. Either that, or this is the taptic engine, which I doubt, that kind of makes it vibrate. But I think it's more likely that that's the actual capacitance sensor for the button. All right, let's put some heat on here and see if we can kind of get this off. Because this looks like it would just be a flex that's stuck on there with adhesive as a way to kind of attach it to this bottom metal case. So let's see. Oh, Jason Smith gave me $1. Thanks, Jason Smith. You're a rock star. Now this iPhone 7 only cost me $599 today, or whatever it was. I don't know. I Sunday went and bought it. I was happy to go spend money at Apple today for the first time in a long time, which I'd really sworn off because we've gotten quite a bit of referrals from our local Apple store, which I really appreciate. You know, if you're not going to repair, then at least refer people. So they've been doing that, so I was happy to go down there and buy this iPhone 7 as a thank you. All right. So this is kind of interesting. The back side of this seems to be a piece of conductive copper. Now let's see if we can get it off. Get back here. So this is just, this is like anatomy lab. We're doing like the fetal pig dissection right now. That's what this kind of feels like. So that's quite stuck on there, but it does seem to be just kind of on there by an adhesive. Let me put some more heat on this. I think I'm going to make it a little bit hotter. So this is your time to ask questions. Anything that you want to know or measure or think about on the iPhone 7 home button. We're here to explore this together tonight. I've spent some time looking at it before I started the stream just so that I could not waste our time. And, you know, as far as I can tell, there's not going to be a solution here. There's not going to be a solution. All right, so it looks like it attaches to some sort of weird adhesive that looks like bubble gum. Okay, so from there we could pull out this part, at least in theory, if it will fit. Let's get that bitch out. All right, so there we go. So this is likely the home button portion of the flex. And there we go. So that's what that looks like. So this lies underneath the fingerprint sensor in the native home button. So then we can kind of follow this flex and see what do we have here. So it looks like there is some kind of a grounding screw bracket that is mounted to the flex. And then over here, I see two little components. One looks like a diode and the other looks like a resistor or potentially a capacitor right there. And that's sort of underneath that silicone stuff. And then the rest of the flex comes up here. And we can take it off of this now. And I see a set of SMD components, and one is a chip. So what do you think that chip does? So let's look that chip up. So this chip is, I looked it up earlier, and this chip's job is to convert capacitance from your fingerprint into some kind of digital signal. It's unlikely, although it's possible, but let me see if I can get you so that you guys could read those letters and look this up yourself later. I doubt that there's logic in this chip that is kind of recognizing this particular button, although it is possible. So changing this chip then, what would that do? And I doubt that this is where the logic is, but who knows? All right, so the chip, what it says there is AD7149. All right, so let's go on a hunt. Let's go look this up. So let's look this up. Let me catch up on this chat for a second. Let's see, I don't want to miss stuff. Stop scrolling. Okay, hearing about Lewis. I'm from Argentina. I'm not surprised that we'd have that problem with Apple. Serious question. What did Sunday do to get fenced off in the back with a pet gate? That's pretty funny. Jean got a puppy, a work puppy. So Jean's puppy has to be 3 feet away from Jean or that puppy will fucking scream its head off. Let's see. What about non-original home buttons? I think that the home button has some, either the fingerprint sensor itself has to be recognized in order for software to engage home button function, or there's something else that's a software lock on the original home button. Lewis is streaming at the same time. What are super chats? Super chats is how people support the channel if you want to donate a buck or two if this is useful information. Aftermarket button does not work. Nothing aside from the one native original button that came with the phone. Let's see. What happened with that phone? Oh, it got run over. I've had 3 in a row, says Zach, where Touch ID is recognizing fingerprints, but will not unlock the screen. It will add new fingers, and it still will not work as touch only. All right, so that does sort of seem like there is a separation then of home button function at the software level and fingerprint sensor. Don't destroy that. It's the most important part in any phone. I'm in the wrong business. I should sell aftermarket 7 Series home buttons. That's right. I want your personal account Facebook. Wow. Who says that out loud? Okay. Hello from Syria. Well, hello, Syria. How do you guys feel in Syria about the fact that Donald Trump sent over some missiles last night? What's it like in Syria to be on the receiving end of that? Is that a good thing for you guys, or is that does that suck? Let's see. Love the janky tweezer tips. Yes. I have like little crochet hook tweezer hooks. Measure the resistance of what? I don't know if you can answer this. I was sold an iPhone 7 from someone and it's locked. Turns out it's a stolen phone. How can I get it activated? You can return it to the person who it was stolen from. Jeez. You can't take something from somebody and then be like, well, I stole this from somebody or someone else stole this. We have a stolen phone, so we could give it back to the owner, but that sucks for me. So how can I get away with stealing it? Fuck you. No. I mean, that's not okay. They blocked me. Then learn a hard lesson. Learn a hard lesson. Don't buy stolen shit. Don't buy stuff that might be stolen. All right. Why is it welded together? I don't know. Yeah, if you bought an iPhone 7 for $300, that's a bad idea. All right. More chat about somebody stole an iPhone 7. That chip is not important. The most important will be the resistance value of that core bone layer. Would it also have the unique ID from the crypto to lock it to that phone only? We don't know how the lock works. We just know there's a lock. Okay. Maybe this chip can be moved to the other home button like on the iPhone 5S. What chip? That doesn't seem to make any sense. Error 53 issues have been removed from all of Apple iOS. So the phone, if you have a bad home button, it just has to be replaced with an aftermarket and you use fingerprint sensor. Right. No, that's not the case. And that's why we're doing the video. You lose home button and fingerprint sensor function. So buying an aftermarket home button is the same thing as buying a pretty little piece of glass. It's not going to do anything. It will not click and make the phone recognize and go back to the home screen. It does nothing. You have to have the native fingerprint sensor and the native home button. The home button itself now is a software lock on both fingerprint and home button function. All right. Measure the carbon layer with your tester. Let's see the big secret. I don't know. You're going to have to be more clear. We can measure resistance, but there's no, carbon layer. That doesn't make any sense. You have to say measure from point A specifically to point B and tell me what those points are, and then we can do that. Okay, let's see. Lewis, you're all watching the wrong stream. Why are you streaming at the same time as me? I told you I was going to do this. That's really funny. Stop spamming Jessa and Lewis. All right, holy shit. Screw Apple. Okay, all right, so we're caught up. So let's go back to looking up the ID of that chip. So this should be fun. So let's see if, idea number one is what's going on with that little square chip. So if you just joined, we're dissecting an iPhone 7 home button. And what we found so far is let's go to Microscope. What we found so far is the fingerprint sensor chip itself. Fingerprint sensor chip, which is here. That's definitely not going to be replaceable. And then it goes to a flex, and then we separately have what appears to probably be the home button function, which is this other little flex, and that arrives here at this chip. And this chip we've identified as AD7149. So let's go ask the internet about AD7149. So let me find AD7149. Let's see where that is. Let's just kind of let's take you with me as we go on a hunt. Screen. No, why is that not working? Hopefully that is working. Yeah, okay. All right, so let's just type in AD, which is, these are the numbers that we just read off of the chip, AD7149. Let's take away the word home button and let's type in like IC. And we can get to DigiKey. All right, sounds obsolete item, fantastic. Data acquisition, touch screen controller. All right, so let's read a data sheet. 7879 isn't quite the same. Let's see if it's in the same family. All right, so we have a chip that's operating at somewhere between 1 and 4 volts, and it touch pressure management, wake up on touch function. So this is an analog to digital converter, which is going to convert capacitance touch, your fingerprint, your finger, into some sort of digital information. All right, let's. I'm not sure that was the best one to look at, because we definitely we don't want 807889. We want AD7149. So let's see if we can find that. Here we go, 7149. Let's see if this is in English. Seven one four nine. That's not quite a match. Is this the one where's one of the ones I already went to? A lot of these are usually not in English. So let's take off the word. Let's just say 87149. All right, here we go. Circuit vision analysis report on the analog devices AD7149. How about that? Let's see what we can learn here. Waiting for tech insights. Fantastic. All right, we don't have patience for that. Let's go back to this. Let's just go back to here. All right, AD7142 sounds pretty close. Programmable capacitance to digital converter. So now we're pretty sure, as we see this again and again, what is going on. So this is integrated capacitance to digital converters, so CDCs, capacitance to digital converters, CDCs, with on-chip environmental calibration for use in systems requiring novel user input method. And it says these has external sensors, can be arranged as a series of buttons, scroll bar or wheel as a combination of sensor types. So our question is whether or not that chip is likely to have some sort of ID that the CPU is going to require, the particular ID of that chip. And maybe it does, but I'm not sure. It seems pretty generic right now, at least to me. But maybe you guys that are more in the design end of things can look at this and go find this data sheet, or the one actually for AD7149, and see if there's anything that seems like it would be storing an ID that would have to be recognized by the CPU. So that's really our question. So we could experimentally, we could just say, hey, what happens if we just take this chip off and switch it, and see if that was able to sort of convey the, carrying over the home button function from one broken flex home button to a new one or not. And if I will do that with this iPhone 7 if I end up getting a iPhone 7 home button to play around with. I'll see what happens if you transfer that chip over. All right, let's move on. So then our next question is to sort of ask, where does this information go? And see if we can learn kind of on the schematic side and kind of understand how does home button function work. So first, before we do that for the iPhone 7, I think we should do that for the iPhone 6s, which is the most recent. So it's going to be most similar to the iPhone 7, except it's still going to have the clicky button. So let's learn a little bit about how home button function works in the iPhone 6s, so that we can kind of see when we compare to iPhone 6s and 7, we can kind of guess what changes were made that are going to be relevant to home button function. All right, so let's see where I missed this. how do I make that bigger? Let me see if I can just hit pop out chat again. Let's see. Pop out chat. Now maybe I can see that a little bit better. All right, let's see if you guys had anything interesting to say. Order a new mobile for it. That's somebody's repair. God damn it, Louis Rossman, why do you make us choose between you two? I think you guys should just choose me. Obviously, I'm a lot better looking than Louis, so it just makes sense. All right. I love my iPhone 5S, and I will use it until it croaks and beyond. I'm curious if you run across weird power issues like I do. Well, I don't have as many awesome tools as you do, but we can still see. What were the, when you had trouble starting the phone in your video? All right, let's see. Solution, don't buy Apple. All right. I have a t-shirt written by iPad Rehab. Is that SimCity in your taskbar? No. What if we transfer the CPU? Why don't you just buy a new phone? I saw a post that the chip on iPhone 5S home button flex cable can be moved to another iPhone 5S home button and Touch ID will still work. Maybe that will also work on the iPhone 7. I don't think so. I mean, people have been trying to change little chips, but no one knows what any of these chips do, and they're not really that thoughtful approaches. Like I could say, gee, maybe it's this chip here, let's transfer it, but you have to do some research. You know, right now, I think the chance that the capacitance converter chip that we just found, the chance that that is containing some sort of ID, it's possible, but I think that's low. So I think we should do some more research before we start to think about things like that. Lewis has a nice butt, though, does he? Just look into my eyes. All right. Okay. So let's continue on then. So let's look at an iPhone 6s home button, and let's try to speed this up. All right. So I have just laying around on my desk a more traditional home button. So this is, I don't know what it's from, if it's a 6 or 6S, but probably 6 or 6S. All right, so let's look at that. So it has the same fingerprint sensor. So I have, if you really want to know more about the iPhone 6 home button, you can look up my Error 53 video. I think there's only one. It's a big video where I did the exact same thing with the iPhone 6 home button, trying to see if there could be a workaround to Error 53. And it has that same huge fingerprint sensor chip itself. And there's nothing kind of in between that. It's just fingerprint sensor chip, wire bonded to the flex, and that's it. And it's definitely not, it's a super fragile chip, and it's definitely not something that you could transfer. Let's look at the 6S home button under the microscope. So here is the 6S. Wait, my new iPhone 7 is ringing. Somebody's calling me from Indiana. Sounds, telemarketers have already found their way to my new iPhone 7 that still has my SIM card in it I need to take out. All right, so if we were to dig out this glass, then we would see that fingerprint sensor there. But let's flip this button over on the back. And here is the old familiar, just like in the game Trouble, the clicky home button actuator or whatever you want to call that thing. And this thing's pretty simple, where it's if you press that down, you're essentially grounding out a line. So there's a voltage, now it's a 0, it's grounded, now it's a voltage, now it's grounded. And that's a really simple mechanism of operation, but it's also really mechanical. So I can understand why it makes sense to get rid of such a mechanical wear downable piece of plastic that your entire function of your phone is dependent on. So this flex disappears under there and it's going to come back out. There's an array of just resistors and capacitors, and then it goes straight to the home button connector. So let's look at the schematic then for the 6S. So let's start with the 6S. So I'm gonna dig up the iPhone 6S schematic. And let's see if we can learn and figure out how home button works. So I'm going to ask you guys to look at this and predict what line is it that really is the home button line. So let's see if you guys are smart. Let's go to screen, and now you're looking at my screen here. So here we are. This is the home button connector. And there's a lot of stuff going on where I see the word Mesa a lot. Mesa, 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 Mesa. So Mesa, I guess I'm going to have to say that has to do with whatever functions are going to go through this home button connector, which is really home button and fingerprint sensor in the iPhone 6s. And then I see a bunch of stuff over here. Mamba, 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 Mamba. So Mamba, then, I'm going to have to guess, has something to do with maybe fingerprint sensor or home button, or something to do with touch, because I see that word touch, 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 touch. So maybe this is force touch. That's kind of how thinking goes on these things as you start to figure stuff out. All right, so what on here, which pin, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, which pin do you think is the actual home button, i.e. the data on that line that goes to the pin would be, somebody push the home button, go back to the home screen. What do you think that is? Let's see if you guys can figure that out. Let's close. Ah! That's probably bad. Where's my chat? I don't know, because you guys are on that. All right, so what do you think? Let's see. There's chat. Okay. Mamba is for 3D touch. Yes, it is. Good job. All right, so what's home button? Where is it? Who knows? All right, where did I leave off? Handheld rehab. Larry gave me $5. Thanks, Larry. Larry bought me a beer on Friday night. All right, so what do you guys think? What is the home button line here? Jessa, I checked. I don't, it's a capacitor or something. It's 4.76 volts. What? I need change this one. I found one which is 4.82 volts. I have no idea what you're possibly talking about. Volts on what? Don't know. All right. Chatter about other stuff. Chatter about other stuff. Are there security holes in these other devices that have replaceable fingerprint scanners? No, there's not. Jessa, I checked. I don't. It's a capacitor. I think I saw that already. All right, we got Larry says number 11. Finally, we got an answer. 11 says Anthony. All right, the one that says menu. Yes. All right, so good job. Let's go back to that and look at pin number 11, and pin number 11 is right. So let's go here. So pin number 11, what is that? So it says button, menu, key, connector, low. All right, so the signal is that this line is either high or low, and that's pretty simple. So pushing the home button. So remember back with the iPods with little click wheels, do you guys remember that on the original little pink, I had one that was an iPod mini, and do you remember that the top button wasn't called the power button, it was called the hold button. And the scroll wheel, clicking the center of that was called the menu button. And that nomenclature has persisted throughout these schematics. So home button function is referred to as menu key, and power button function is referred to as hold key. So you can use that as a tip when you're trying to troubleshoot menu or home button and power button problems in these devices. All right, so this then is how, at the connector, this menu button comes into the connector, and this is pretty clear. So let's copy that, and let's see what else we can learn about it. All right, so it goes through a resistor, and then it continues on as menu button key. This is just information sheet. Goes to the debug connector. It is generated from the 1v8 SDRAM line. And it goes in. It's going to go in somewhere. Where is it going to go in? It's going to go into MAUI U0600. That is the CPU. Makes sense. Home button would signal to the CPU. All right, in. Let's see what this is. U2000. What is U2000? Let's see on the top of the page. Antigua Power Management Union. Makes sense. Home button talks to the PMIC. And that's it. All right, so now we really know all there is to know about how home button functions in the iPhone 6s. So before we move on to the 7, let's look at all of these other things. So let's just kind of look at every one of these other lines and think to ourselves, anything on here that's in the 6s and also on the 7 is not home button, because we know what home button is. So that means PP3V0 Mesa is not home button. This SPI AP to Mesa MOSI, MISO, that is not home button. Mesa to boost enable. All of this stuff, a 16.5 volt power line. Gee, what do you think? Wonder what that powers. Something, what would require such a high voltage? I don't know. Maybe a really, really fancy fingerprint sensor chip that has about a zillion tiny little cells on it. This is also not home button. And then on the other side, these ones we really need to memorize. Something called Mamba to LCM M drive. So this is our 3D touch probably. We know it's not home button. Screen to Mamba M sync, not home button. AP to touch reset, Mamba, touch, Mamba, touch, Mamba, touch, Mamba. Mamba, not home button. All right, so that's what we know now. So now we can now we might be better set to look at the iPhone 7, because a lot of this is sort of like a evolution where you kind of start out with one pattern and then you iterate and evolve on that pattern, and you'll see changes in each new generation, but you can also sort of see the history of the evolution of these devices. They rarely just do away with everything and then it's completely brand new. So whatever has been working, basic architecture of touch or power, they might make changes, or one system might be entirely changed, but there'll be a lot of familiar stuff as you compare kind of back down the evolutionary tree through the schematics of these devices. So let's apply what we now know about iPhone 6s touch or 6s home button function to the iPhone 7 schematic and see if we can kind of guess where home button function might be. So that's our plan now. So my iPhone 7 schematic I'm using just straight out of Blackfish. So let's go to Blackfish. So this is iPhone 7. So here we are at iPhone 7. This is, my ZXW is not working. That's probably true for everybody, I don't know. iPhone 7, and I'm looking at the iPhone 7 schematic from ZXW Blackfish. All right, so now, what do you think? Is PP3V0 Mesa probably the home button function? Probably not, because we saw that this was in the 6S. 16 volt Mesa. That is probably fingerprint sensor power. This might be power to that little new chip that we saw. I don't know. Mamba to blah blah. This was in the 6S, so that's probably not home button function. That's probably something to do with 3D touch. LCM to Mamba M sync, again, touch, touch Mamba, Mamba, touch Mamba, touch Mamba, touch Mamba. None of that is going to be home button, so we're eliminating this entire side of the connector as having anything to do with home button function. So now we've narrowed it down to just this side. All right, so now we have PP1V8 Mesa, that's some power line, and then now we've got new stuff. So we've got, here's one Mesa to AP MISO. We saw that before, so we can rule that out. What the fuck is Turtle? Turtle, I've never heard of. I don't know what Turtle is. I don't know what Turtle is. I don't know what this is. Mesa to AOP. And I don't know, maybe you guys can help me out. This is, what's FD? Internal? FD, I don't know. We saw MESA to boost enable before. We saw MESA to AP. I think we saw that one before. And then this AP means application processor. So CPU to MESA. We saw these before, I think. These are going to be data lines communicating back and forth out to, MESA, I think, is just fingerprint sensor. Fingerprint sensor, fingerprint sensor. So what here is not MESA? It's all MESA. So I don't see anything that points to an isolation between the fingerprint sensor and the home button function. At least it's not clear. So if I had to pick one, what would you pick if you had to guess what is the new thing here that is most likely home button function? Let's take some guesses. So which one of these, name a pin that you think is most likely the new home button function, the way home button is controlled in the iPhone 7. So let's see what you guys think. I have to go to camera so that I can find my chat window again. So what do you guys think? Let's see if we can go back to screen, and now we can all see my chat window. God damn it. I don't know where it disappears to. So we'll have to go back again. Where did it go? Okay, I think it's just that. All right. So I'm reading this home key not working. Chat about stuff that is not relevant to this video. 16 volt is for Touch ID also. Yeah, it's for Touch ID and what else? As far as I know, it's just for Touch ID. Let's see. Chat about stuff that's not iPhone 7. Let's see. I guess MESA Turtle is for home button pressure sensitive. Only that is new. Yes, I agree. All right. Another vote for MESA Mosi. MESA Mosi was in the success. Okay, that iPhone 7 owner is screwed. Oh yes. Okay, so we have one person paying attention to the iPhone 7 home button issues. It says the only thing new, and this is true as far as I can tell, I agree, the only thing new is Turtle, whatever Turtle is. Turtle? Who are you, Turtle? So let's see if we can find a little bit more out about Turtle, and then we're gonna guess that Turtle is the home button function. So let's go back to let's go to screen, and let's go back here. Oh, now I can read that. All right, so let's move my chat over there. Okay, so this Turtle then, I2C, so that's data communication. MESA, meaning shit that's out on the, out past the home button connector. Turtle. So these guys, maybe it's, something else. Maybe, I don't know this one either. This would be the other one. AOP to MESA blanking enable. That's interesting as well. I don't know that guy either. All right, so Bobby Gordon is paying attention. All right, good for you, Bobby Gordon. Then let's go to search, and let's see what happens if we type in MESA _ Turtle. Okay. All right, here we go. So MESA Turtle to Mamba MESA Flex. All right, Mamba MESA Flex. That's our Force Touch and home button flex. Well, we already know that. So there's a resistor R4806, and it looks like this is data line stuff. So on the other side, that Turtle line, MESA Turtle, turns into, gets renamed to this I2C AOP data line, clock and data. So these are sort of hand in hand. They go through these little switch chips, and also on the same line is stuff that's proximity sensor. Well, I don't know what AOP is yet. And then we have whatever this AOP AOP. Who's got a guess? I don't have any guesses. I2C AOP. We'd have to go see if Google can help us understand that. All right, so this is all data that's going to ultimately go to probably the CPU or a similar logic chip that's just called AOP, wherever that is. And that's pretty much it. So there doesn't, so now what we can do is to try to mess around. All right, let's see what you guys think. How can we kind of use this sort of idea that we have that maybe this stuff is home button function, but I don't know anymore. I think having a paired data with a clock line means information. So this is probably going to be the, I don't know, force of your touch, like force touch on the home button, maybe something like that. Let's go back and look at the only other thing that we know, which is this other one. Let's look at AOP to Mesa blanking enable. That sounds like, I don't know, it sounds kind of home button-y. Home button is going to be a simple signal, isn't it? It's going to be off or on, 1 or 0. So it doesn't really seem like paired data and clock is going to be necessarily home button. Maybe it is. But this is probably just giving more rich information about how hard you actually touched that button. Gentle, easy in the middle, that would be something like that. And maybe that's how home button works now. But let's look at this. AOP to Mesa blanking enable. Let's see if we can see what happens if we type in Mesa underscore blanking. All right, let's see where it goes. So here we found a filter. So FL3811. FL3811. I think that might be something I will want to remember. So I'm going to write that down before we move on. FL3811 is the Mesa blanking enable. All right, let's see if we can find that Mesa blanking again. That's the same spot. So that's it. It goes from the connector and then AOP to Mesa blanking enable. So this is it. That's the connector. And does it change its name? Nope. So it's unclear to where does that go? Let's see what happens if we just type in AOP to Mesa and see if we can find that anywhere else. Nope. Oh, here we go. So this is back at, is this back at our turtle area? Yeah, so here's turtle again. And now here is AOP to Mesa I2C ISO enable. All right, so that seems to be on these what appear to be switch chips. So this now starts to kind of seem related. So that I think home button function is going to be really likely, I think, this guy, if not one of these turtle lines. All right, so let's see if we can find that anywhere else. There, back here, back there, back there. So it's a little unclear how we got from blanking to this I2C enable. It's just another word. All that line, I don't know where that line would go to, and it doesn't, it's odd that it doesn't find it for us. Okay, so now let's hear from you guys. I want to hear from you guys. What should we do with this information? What should we do with this information? What should we do? Is there any experiment or something that we should mess around with on the basis of this information? Let's see if you guys can answer that, and I will see if ZXW is still not working. Let's see. Come on, ZXW. Load yourself. Please wait. Resources 0. Fantastic. Is anybody else's ZXW not working right now? No networks found. Fantastic. Oh, let's see. Let's try a different one of these. We'll try a different one. How about different ZXW server? Can you load ZXW? Resources 20% and server execute error. Fantastic. Okay. Please wait. Resources 20%, and that's as far as it gets. So ZXW is not going to be our friend today. All right. So let's see what else you guys have to say here. If you have come up with a hypothesis, let's see who's smart around here tonight. All right, we left off at Bobby Gordon paying attention. Family, if it was that easy to fix, she wouldn't be here. What? Wouldn't Apple reprogram the home button with a new screen? Yes. If you work at Apple, you are all set to fix this. You are all set. I'm going to work at an Apple store and steal the machine and send it to you. Fantastic, Johnny boy. That'll be great. Of course, I also will need a login to GSX so that I can actually make it work. I think you work for Apple. Who, me? Yeah. Apple doesn't move the home button like we do. That's right. They replaced the whole thing and then they reprogram it. Jerry Rig everything, swapped an iPhone 7 screen and it still came up with a no home button pop-up. Both were genuine Apple screens of phones. That's the point. It has to be the native one, just like the fingerprint sensor. That's the entire point of this video, and it bothers me that that's not clear. So let's just be crystal clear. The whole point of this is that iPhone 7 home button function is married to the home button. That you get with the device. You can't change the home button and keep home button function. Home button function goes with the actual home button that you got when you bought the phone. Anything happens to it, bye-bye home button function. Just like we already knew is the case for fingerprint sensor function and always has been. So now fingerprint sensor and home button are both tied to that unique original home button. All right. I wonder if AOP has anything to do with the suffix of to chestnut IC. AOP chestnut IC? I just jumped in through home button doesn't work. AOP is a communication line. Right, going where? To who? AP is CPU. What's AOP? Let's see. It goes to Cayman. All right, well, let's look up Cayman. Mine didn't, the Blackfish didn't find Cayman. All right. I'm questioning if the home button is really programmed because I saw a video of a man who stated that he didn't have the original home button to a customer's phone, but after trying a number. Well, you know, as far as we know, it could be that it recognizes, like, this is the same thought that we had for error 53, like, maybe it has to be a certain serial number of a certain month of production or something like that. We don't know, but there's some software piece of identifying information that the CPU is looking for in order to be able to enable home button function. All right, Turtle. Blanking has to be something for haptic feedback, maybe. That's a good idea. Let's see. Somebody said I tried a home button. What was that? I tried today 2 home buttons on an iPhone 6 and both worked with Touch ID. 2 home buttons on an iPhone 6 and both worked with Touch ID. That sounds really implausible. But who knows? Maybe with a software update they got rid of something. I don't know. Yeah, so Martin, if you believe that you have switched a different home button into an iPhone 6 and fingerprint sensor was enabled, show us a video. That sounds, you know, that's not something that anyone's ever heard before. And it stands in contrast to mounds of evidence that that's not possible. So let us know. Jessa, what if you ground that line? All right, here comes Larry with a good idea. Larry says, what if you ground that line? Will home button function work? Yay, experiments. Let's do some experiments. Okay. So that's good. Turtle are for new data protection. That doesn't make sense. My desk had a few home buttons on it, and I lost the correct one for the device I was working on. 3 out of the 5 came up with the unable to activate Touch ID error. However, 2 of them did not. Right, but of the 2 that did not, did only one actually work, or did they both work? I mean, you can have different points of failure of fingerprint sensor. So it doesn't count unless you were able to save a stored fingerprint with a non-native home button. Plus, now you've kind of made us question your scientific experiment, because you're saying, I had a shit ton of home buttons and I started plugging them in and a couple of them worked. Well, that doesn't sound that convincing. You need to do a video, find it, and make that crystal clear. Touch still failed on both buttons until I did a full restore. What? All right. So at that point, if the home button doesn't work, you crack the screen and go to Apple to replace it. Yes, you get the fun joy of cracking that screen. Maybe the home button resets itself when the iPhone is restored. I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know if that is true or not. I don't know that Michael Oberdick, I don't know if Michael Oberdick is still around, but did you see what happens if you restore the device, if it then could recognize, if you did a switch from one original home button to another original home button, then did restore? Does that change the deal or not? I don't know. Austin says, I'm thinking when the signal from the Touch ID sensor gets a certain amount of pressure, it may activate something in the circuitry to allow home button function. Right, so you're saying you think it's turtle. Okay. So Martin thinks that Martin, those ideas, like were all what everybody was talking about when it was this sort of time during the Error 53 saga, when Error 53 was really relevant. None of that really bore out. Jessa, did you ever try to use the home button from a brand new phone that was never programmed for fingerprint and use that button on the other phone? Yes, I did try that when it was the same thing. We already kind of went through this whole story back when Error 53 was relevant. And there was an idea with Error 53 that if you broke the home button and just lost fingerprint sensor function, that you could take a never been activated home button from a brand new iPhone and put that one in, and that then the device would restore and pass Error 53. That was not true in my hands. So the moment I heard that, I did the same thing we're doing now. I went to the Apple store and I bought a brand new, and I was crystal clear that I wanted new, never activated, full price, in the, like never open phone. And then I came here and I took it apart and I took out that brand new, never activated home button. And I made sure it was the same carrier as the Error 53 phone I was trying to fix, and it did not work. So in my hands, that did not work. However, the Vietnamese guy had success with that, and I believe him. So, but then I think he stopped having. He found that was limited to some narrow range as well. At one time, keys for GM vehicles used a varying amount of resistors in keys. It could be blind luck to find a resistor of the same value in a similar flex. Maybe. All right, let's see. I think home button is software, not physical. How much of home button iPhone 7? Makes no sense. Okay, let's experiment. So the only idea that any of you guys came up with was Larry. Fantastic job on Larry. Which was, what happens if you just either, we'll add to Larry's idea and just say, what happens if you intentionally ground one of these 3 potential candidate lines that we have that we think are probably home button function? What happens if you ground them? And what happens if you wash out a drawbridge and just sort of leave them open? So what I think we should do with my brand new iPhone 7 is let's see if we can at least identify which line is the one that is home button function. So let's take a candidate line. I'm going to go with my first candidate line is going to be the one that was called the AOP blanking enable, because that one is the only one that I thought seemed unique to home button and was not part of a paired data and clock line set. So let's see what happens with that. And that's why I wrote down FL3811, because FL3811 is going to be between the connector and that line going out to the home button. So let's, now with ZXW not working, me finding FL3811 is going to be a challenge. So let's see if I can find it. Jessa has that Apple Care on speed dial. Oh, I did say Sunday, go buy a phone today. Make sure you get Apple Care Plus, because we might be needing that. All right, let's see. Does this work? Server execute error. God damn it to hell. All right. If anybody does have ZXW working that can help me quickly find FL3811 location in iPhone 7, that would be fantastic. For now, we're going to just try to hunt for it on the schematic. So let's bring you guys back over here to the schematic, and let's do FL3811. FL3811. Did it find it up there? Did it? All right, let's put it previous. Oh no, don't let it be on the back of the board. I want it to be by the connector. Come on now. FL3811 is on the fucking back of the goddamn thing. Fuck. All right, let's see if there's a different one. Let's find one that's on the top of the board so that I don't stop that. Stop it! All right, so FL3811 was on, oh geez, that's the 6S. Not you. Oh no, it closed my Blackfish. Oh, boo. All right, I gotta dig up my Blackfish again. Here, Blackfish. I rarely use Blackfish, so I don't really know where it lives. Okay, it's still there from before. Let's hope that it loads. The menu is loading. Please wait. Oh, don't give me any kind of please wait bullshit. Don't give me any of that. And now I don't have Blackfish either. Fuck me. I don't think I can find FL3811. I'll need some help from you guys then. Let's pick the other server. Will you work, Blackfish? Come on, Blackfish. Why did you quit on me? Okay, progress. I see the Blackfish is, I think, loading. iPhone series, iPhone 7. All right, this is at least, yay. All right, so at least we have Blackfish working again. Let's type back in. No! What? Let's just ignore that. Boo! God damn it. Piece of Chinese shit. Alright, we'll try Blackfish again. Oh, doesn't it suck to be reliant on all this crap? Just such crap. Where you can't even just say, hey, show me how the home button works. How do I trouble? Just sell me the fucking machine so that I can just change this. Why do I have to kill myself to reverse engineer shit? Just insane. Just absolutely insane. All right, but we will prevail. We will outsmart them in the end. Don't worry. All right. Oh, it's gonna keep quitting on me. All right, boo. So my plan here is to experiment. So what I want to do is to just, take different lines that are our 3 potential lines anyway, and short them to ground or bust them up and see if we can at least really nail down on where is the home button's function located, and then just kind of go from there. I don't think this is going to lead to a solution, so this is purely academic. All right, we'll just do this one more try, and then I'll have to just ask you guys to scroll back on this video and show me. Let's see if we can scroll a little bit. All right, I can see the back of the board there, and I'm looking for FL3811, and I see that. All right, but I'd like to find something on the top of the board so that we can do something right away. I'm not sure I'm really want to take this whole board out. So let's see what else is on the top of the board by that connector. That might be some of our other lines. So I see FL3803, FL3802. Let's see where those go. FL3803. FL3803. So FL3803 is, boo, that's on our 3V0 Mesa connector line. That doesn't really help us. All right, so let's see if we can look over here and bring you guys back. Screen. All right, so the line that I would like to work on here is pin number 19. And if not that one, then I'd like to work on these turtle lines. So for now, let's just start with what happens if we turn the ones and zeros on that line into 0. And let's see if that's enough to make it not recognize the home button. So let's turn this number 19 into a 0. So now I need to figure out on my iPhone which pin is number 19. So it's going to be 3 from either the top or the bottom, and only one side is going to have a ground pin in the middle of the connector. So it'll be 3 from the opposite side of the ground pin. All right, hopefully that makes sense. So I will take this phone apart and let's see what's going on in chat while I do that. All right, and let's see if you guys have any other ideas. All right, I would assume the new home button is just a digitizer, so no ground would probably help. Huh? Would not help. What? Still doesn't make sense. ZXW is down. Yes, fantastic. ZXW being down right when you're trying to do this live stream. Try with Mesa communication lines. We could do those, but those are also present in the 6S. I mean, so my first candidate would be something that's present in just the 7, although most likely that's going to just be that sort of force touch on the home button. So my guess right now would be that AOP blanking enable line would be home button function number 1. And then number 2, I would look at the turtle lines. And then number 3, I would look at the Mesa communication lines as well. Yes, for iPhone 7. Jessa, your mic volume on screen capture is lower than on camera. Okay, good to know. I'm confused. On the 7, you cannot move the home button to a new screen. No, you can move it to a new screen as long as it's the native button. So crystal clear. This home button must always go with this logic board or you're screwed. I can crack the glass. I can move the home button to new glass and put it back with the logic board. Works. I can take the logic board out, put it in a new housing, take the home button, put it with that logic board. Works. I can do any of that. But if I fuck up the home button, I will lose home button function. I have to have my logic board, my home button. They're married together forever. Let no man lay the iPhone 7 home button asunder, because if so, your phone is going to be a piece of shit. Okay. It was pin 5. All right. You can, but if your home button stops working, you can't put in a new one. That's right. Okay. If Apple offered you a good job, would you take it? Me? Wow, that kind of hits a little too close to home, actually. No, because here's why. I would take a job at Apple because I think that'd be super fun. It would be really fun to work on the most common device in the world. It would be really fun to be an inventor in a, it would be really fun to even just be a troubleshooter that worked in-house at Apple. But Apple, the company, is just way too douchey. I wouldn't be able to stand it. So there's no way that I would give up the, how the fuck do you open a brand new, never been open? I don't think I've ever opened a 7 that hadn't been open. I might actually need some kind of suction cups. Christine, do we have any kind of suction cup tools?
No, I asked them the other day and they said they just use that Sentinel thing.
Yeah, that's what I do as well, but this one has never been opened and I kind of don't want to really fuck it up. I've never found a phone that I couldn't really get past with the old fingernail. Let's see. If Apple offered you a good job, would you take it? No, just because I know that part of that job would be a requirement to really have no ability to talk with the many people that I really enjoy talking to, who I've made relationships with, even some that I've never laid eyes on, that I really enjoy. They're part of my life. And I wouldn't want to trade in all of those relationships because I would really not be able to, Apple's not going to just trust you to maintain relationships with people that are specifically trying to do what you don't want them to do. They're not going to be okay with that. So I wouldn't give that up. That would be a deal breaker for me. Plus, I absolutely would not want to move away from this rural town that I think is fantastic and all the relationships that I have here locally. So I would not do that. All right, you have to reinstall Blackfish. Went through the same stuff. I would reinstall Blackfish if ZXW was working, but it definitely seems to be some kind of server issue over there right now. The only winning move is not to play. Oh, that's a really lame outlook and quite sad there, Cameron. Chris Long, screen and home button and main board. Not the screen. The screen, throw away the screen. Oh, ZXW is back up now? Well, that's good. Check pin 5. Yay. All right, I need to figure out how to get this phone open. Let's see. No one thinks there's a suction cup in this whole fucking place? What about, don't we have some kind of little grabber suckers? We did at one time. I'll have to stick some heat on this. How to very gently open an iPhone 7 in under 2 hours. Oh man. What's really funny is I think this will, I doubt that we'll fuck this up irreparably. I might ultimately fuck it up irreparably. In which case I might just keep it as a donor board. But if I don't, I would totally just go down to the Apple store and be like, yeah, I opened this up to do some YouTube videos, try to figure out how the home button works, and now it's fucked up, so good thing I got Apple Care Plus. See what they say. All right. Oh, man.
They're saying Sunday might know about that, but she's not answering that in the chat right now.
All right, yeah. A feeler gauge? What's a feeler gauge? Oh, Michael Overdick, fuck you. What? Jessa, use a thin pick. I don't think we have any picks either. I ain't got no picks. I use fingernail power 99% of the time, but I almost never have to open devices that we have never had an iPhone 7 just come in here. Is the seal on the 7 much different from the 6S? Yeah, it is, because I open 6Ss all day long. you know, right exactly how I'm trying to do this one. This one in particular, though, I really would prefer not to fuck up. I might have to go on a hunt for some kind of a tool. All right, so I'm gonna have to do a Lewis and let you guys stare at my blank chair while I look for a way to get into this sucker. Had to go with the old dangerous isosmo to get it started. Now it should be fine. Just needed a little help to wake up. And then the old fingernail method will never let you down. Okay, let's get this screen off and look at the connector. Here's my, I should sell these in the iPad rehab supply store. This is my broken glass removal tool. It removes little screws, IC chips, all kinds of shit that you don't need or you don't want on your bench. All right, so let's just snip that seal. There we go. There we go. All right, screw time. I am going to disconnect the battery and take off this shield. Yeah, I just said fuck it and went with the good old isosmo. I was confused after reading someone on iFixit say they couldn't get the home button to work on a new screen. Yeah, if you are transferring it to a new screen, it should work, unless you tear the flex. I mean, I've only opened a handful of iPhone 7s, and I was surprised that, first of all, I thought the home button went under the screen, and it was the thing that connected up at the top. Wrong. Who knew? Did not know that. All right, so we are taking the screen off, and now I'm gonna undo the, I think it's called the forehead flex area, which is all of the proximity ALS sensor stuff. All right, forehead flex is now disengaged. Okay, yay, I got my screen off. What is a feeler gauge? I've never heard of a feeler gauge. Tell me more about this mysterious feeler gauge. All right, let's look at my new home button. All right. Okay. I enjoyed your video on healthy skepticism. Are you familiar with the milligram experiment? No? What is it? Tell it to me. The only experiment that I had to respond to recently was this one about the thief and the clerk, which apparently women answer differently than men, which did turn out to be the case. All right, so let's see. All right, here's something that I was honestly too dumb to know this. I thought that this was LCD digitizer, and I thought that home button plugged in up there. That's what I thought when I woke up this morning. That is not true. So you guys that actually do general repair and see iPhone 7s will know this already, but I didn't know this. So let's just clarify for everybody else how the actual home button works. Where does it plug into? So this is a destroyed screen. So here's my destroyed screen from the destroyed phone, and it goes like this. All right, so let's make this so that you guys can see. It goes like this. So the home button is, let's poke that down there. I guess this goes, this is how we see it, like this. So the home button itself plugs in down there, and I thought that it went in there and then it came out up here. Nope, that's not the case. This is just the typical stuff. That's the ear, speaker, front camera, microphone, that kind of stuff. So where does the home button go? So I didn't know this. I had to take this apart. So the home button plugs into that little dude, and then we can lift off this back plate, and then we can fold this down, and let's now take apart this backlight and the force touch engine. So I'm splitting apart backlight. So I still have my backlight LEDs. So this is backlight, and this is my my force touch. So I can pull apart now the force touch, and I'm going to take this to show you under the microscope so that we can kind of get an idea of where that little dude goes. All right, well, that'll be too bright for everybody. All right, so here's where the home button plugs in, and then flipping this over, hopefully that's not killing you with brightness. We can see this plug in to a flex that has what must be all the touch information. So here's this tiny little data lines, and then a big power line and a ground going through here. So it's really part of this touch screen. And then it goes through this flex, and so now we know that home button information is in this flex here. So what is this? Well, it also comes from the screen, and I can see it comes from the backlight, so that's definitely backlight. So backlight is then plugging in. Here's backlight plugging in under here, and if we flip this over, we could see the actual backlight, must be backlight solder joints under here. And there they are. These are the things that have to be covered if you don't want to blow backlight filters. So that's our backlight coming in. And our home button then is on this flex, and home button plugs into this connector, right? So this is the turtle lines and blanking enable and all of the Mamba Mesa, all of that stuff is all force touch and home button. So now we know where to look on the board. All right, so here is my iPhone. So now we know home button's not going to be plugging in up there. Home button is going to be here at this connector. All right, so this is where we want it to be. Let's get rid of this so that we can experiment. Okay, so now we have to figure out which side of this connector has the ground. So let's do that. All right, so we found our ground is there, which means that this number 3 here must be the line that we were looking for right there. So let's check back on our schematic. So let's go back over there. All right, so we found the ground, and on the opposite side and toward the sort of the long end, number 1, 2, 3 is this AOP to Mesa blanking enable connector. I'm going to ground that line. I'm going to ground that line and see if I still have home button function. So what do you guys think about that? That's our plan. We're going to ground that line. So how do we actually do that? We're going to ground that line. All right, so that means we are talking about, we found this, and on the long side opposite of that, 1, 2, 3. So this pin here, we're going to ground that. So I am going to solder a wire here, and it would be nice if if I could kind of retain well, let's see if this wire is thin enough. I kind of like this wire. Might be too thick. I like the ability to kind of like control when I want to ground it, rather than just making it be grounded all the time. Oh, that might be too thick. All right, we'll go with regular old magnet wire. So what do you guys think is going to happen? What do you predict? We're doing some experimenting. We're in the lab. Science days. All right. Oh, fuck, it is super late. I don't think I'll have time to do this very much longer. Super late. All right, we're going to ground, or just tin one side of this wire, and then I'll just tin it up here. Okay. And now we will grab something smaller and put it where it goes. All right, where do you go, mofo? There you go, buddy. All right, I think I need to grab some tweezers so that I can stick that on there. We're gonna do some experimenting. What happens? All right, so that is in place. I'm going to put a tiny blob of solder over there to be a convenient ground. But maybe the Apple Store won't notice. Okay. So let's go back and measure inside the connector to be sure that we have grounded that line. And we have. Okay, so now let's see what happens when we put my screen back on and ask home button to work. So this is the native screen, native home button, everything. So we're just going to plug that in. All right, so let's see. Does it still have the power button in the same spot? All right, so we're going to wake it up. Yikes. Do you need anything from me, Christine?
Nope, I'm good.
SIM tray replacement? Huh?
The device doesn't recognize SIM card.
No. What device?
It's a 6.
Nope, definitely not.
We'll just send it back.
Yeah, I mean, did they send it in with no quote?
Right.
Yeah, tell them to suck a dick. Y'all can. All right. I predict boot loop, says Chris Long. Dan. Either nothing or a faulty startup. Let's see. What else do we have? Driving home to the sounds of Jess. Jess has been listening to Clint Black all day and for 2 days in a row. And which I used to love Clint Black. And then I haven't listened to Clint Black in years. And Jean's been over here like, how the fuck do you just know all of this Clint Black stuff? This seems to be taking a long time. Okay. All right. Let's see. What password did I make up for this? All right. So I'm in. So it booted. Touch ID. Unable to activate Touch ID at this time. Okay. What about home button? Let's press the home button. It does not do anything. Wow. It doesn't know. Michael Oberdick, I wish you were still around. Yours, it said like home button. It doesn't know that it doesn't have a home button, but this doesn't buzz or do anything. And it certainly doesn't. It's like it's just glass. It's very weird, actually, because when you actually touch an iPhone 7 home button, it tricks you into thinking it's a button because it's like bzz, and you're like, oh yeah, bzz, bzz. This is nothing. You're like, this is not a button. This is not a button. Nothing happens. All right, so there we go. So that one does nothing. Now I'm kind of intrigued to see, what if we just inactivate fingerprint sensor function? Let's see actually before we move on whether or not fingerprint sensor is actually grayed out or to what degree it's grayed out. So let's go to Touch ID and passcode. And fingerprint is grayed out. So add a fingerprint is grayed out. So that line, that sort of enable line, has taken out fingerprint sensor and home button, but it did not generate any kind of error message. So so that's kind of interesting. It's like on Michael Oberdick's, when he swapped one native home button for another native home button, the device automatically turned on the assistive touch, and it said, it kind of knew that home button wasn't there. This is acting like the home button is not connected at all, but it seems like it still recognizes that it is, I don't know, it's not activating any kind of I don't see you thing. Now let's just take that jumper back off and make sure that we've returned to the normal state where home button and fingerprint sensor work. All right, so here we go. Okay. I predict the phone will function perfectly, but then send out a secret signal to the DMCA. And 5 minutes later, the stream will be cut off to the sound of stream. All right, let's see. T-minus 357 before DMCA breakdown. That's pretty funny. Could you make some vids for schematics? No. All right, so let's go ahead and cut this off like the nice way. And we did have touch on this because I was able to move around. All right, disconnect battery and remove jumper. All right. Okay, let's remove that jumper. Let it boot without grounded, yes. And what happens if you ground while on? Yes, that sounds really good. Okay, so let's first make sure that we can return to the native state. So we will take off we're gonna take off our jumper. All right, so we're leaving it there so that we have the ability to ground it. Now let's use the multimeter to confirm that we have relieved the short to ground. All right, so let's go in here. No beep, so I'm on ground over here. No beep, so it's no longer shorted to ground. But we're gonna leave that jumper in place so that we have the ability to, while the phone is on, we have the ability to go like this, beep, and make it be grounded, and then we'll see how it responds. So that should be fun. All right, so let's make sure that we haven't permanently fucked this up, because it could have some sort of software-based lock. Like if I ever so much as think that you have fucked with my fingerprint sensor, I will fucking destroy this phone. You never know. That's a little overkill, but you never know. So I'm gonna stick this screen back on here. Battery. All right, and boot. Okay. It probably won't refresh in settings unless it's actively trying to communicate with a Touch ID anyway. When you disconnect the battery, do you also discharge the logic board by pressing the power button? No. What's the color of yours hair? Gray, obviously. Is that a good practice on most devices? I do that to discharge capacitors. I think if you want, you just kind of like run your finger, you just like touch it. Let's see. What else is? Oberdick doesn't know shit. That's not true. Michael Oberdick doesn't have a girlfriend and therefore knows all. Knows everything. Let's see. This is intense. You should do more of these experiments. It's pretty interesting. Yeah, man. Everybody loves science. Chris Long. I'm in line at the ass to mouth. Gross. All right, let's see. A northern girl say you can, and a southern girl says y'all can. Y'all can click X if you don't like this content. Okay. It doesn't see my fingerprint sensor anymore. All right, what about home button? Oh, permanently fucked. Look at that. Interesting. Interesting. That is really interesting. This whole, so that makes, so first of all, I need to check to make sure that I haven't actually grounded my line just because it's laying in there. But right now, having gone back to the native state, which is not grounded, it does not recognize home button anymore. Home button is not working. Now it's possible that it's just not making good connection, so I want to try that again. And this time I think I'm going to take the jumper, or I'm just going to test while the screen is on, so I'm leaving it on. And just make sure I haven't grounded that line kind of inadvertently. Which is possible. Yeah, it is totally possible. Let's see. Nope, it's not grounded. All right, let's look for a voltage in that line. Let's see, what kind of voltage is in this line? So I wish you guys could see my multimeter, but it is flickering around. It's at 0, but it's not a total 0. It's 0.2, 0. It's hard to stick that on there. All right, I'm going to see what happens. I'm going to see, oh, my phone is rebooting. I don't think I touched anything. All right, let's just let it reboot. Didn't like me fucking with it, I guess. Wonder if you can factory reset. Yes, we'll see that. Hard reset. I don't have a girlfriend either, says the tar man. Well, then you'll love my video that I've been planning to do for a few days called How to Get a Girl by Jessa and Team iPad Rehab. On modern devices, the power button doesn't do squat for discharging since it's only a logic line. Yes. Republicans don't like science. That's unfortunately becoming true. It didn't used to be true. But that is unfortunately becoming true. You guys see that? No home. Surprised about that. Yeah, I'm surprised as well. Okay, now let's see what happens. All right, let's look for messages. Message. Bad Touch ID. Touch ID is bad. Okay. And then home button. Nope, it doesn't like my home button. I really wish I had tried just sort of to confirm. I mean, I'm sure it's fine, but I wish I had just confirmed that home button does work when you kind of hold the screen out like this. Okay, so so let's see what happens if we make this phone. Let's see what happens if we try to boot it in recovery mode, which requires home button function. So I'm going to leave my jumper off, and we're going to see if it has if it's like registers a permanent problem or not. So I'm going to connect to the computer, USB. And I wonder if it does this with a defect in any one of these lines. Trust this computer. Yes, please do trust this computer. All right, I'm going to see if it will work for holding down, whoops, nope. Holding down home and power. Can I get a hard reset out of this? Nope, it does not detect the home button, so I can't do that. Interesting. All right, I'm going to power it off. I'm going to disconnect the battery and then reconnect it real quick. So disconnect from computer, lift battery, put battery back down, press home button, and connect to USB to prompt it. So I'm giving it the prompt, if you can see it, to boot in recovery mode if it can recognize the home button. And I don't think it will. We'll see. That's really interesting, you know, because like you could short a home button, you know, 1v8 to 0 in any device in order to kind of simulate home button. And now you can't do any of that. It's like super complex. Like, how do you make a phone go into recovery mode? It's really interesting. All right, so I think this is not going to detect the home button. And boot as normal. But let's just make sure. Crazy. Can you see that? Come on, mofo. Boot if you're going to boot. This really takes forever. This is insane. Is it hanging because I'm trying to hold home button and it's like, I don't know what to do now. You told me to ignore that guy. Oh, boots is normal despite holding home button. So it doesn't know. It doesn't know that the home button is there. Okay. So let's see what happens if we, let's see if we can restore. All right, needs me to trust. All right, try again. Welcome to your new phone. Thank you. Touch ID is unable to be activated. Why? All right, let's let's let that happen. I also have very same problem with home button, says Manny. That jumper could act as an antenna and therefore confuse things. That doesn't make any sense. Hard reset it and see if it comes back. I think your mobile home button is gone. Yes, the home button will not function in the Touch ID all at once. If it was not put on its twin board, it will say Touch ID. That doesn't make any sense. Filter blown. Well, I'm not pulling the board out to see. That's a possibility, but I doubt that voltage is it's a data line, so I doubt that. I'd be really surprised. Just says, sorry for asking again, but is the graphics card and Wi-Fi going to work with your motherboard on your new desktop? Probably. I don't know. That's the kind of stuff that I get around to like way after I fix the microwave, and I will get around to that way after all sorts of things. So I'll reset and see if it comes back. But thank you for sending that. That's very thoughtful. You fucked it up. Yeah, no shit. Oh well, another corpse to science. Recovery on iPhone 7 is power and volume down. Huh. Well, that makes a lot of sense since apparently the iPhone 7 home button is super easy to fuck with. Time to call Uncle Barclays. Okay, power and recovery doesn't need home button. Okay. Well, another word is saying they decided to be smart and not make recovery mode dependent on the piece of shit home button. Whoa, what? Why did that just wake up? Oh, did I hit power button? Does it wake? No? Oh, I thought it woke up. Oh, that must be raised to wake. Another feature that I am not familiar with. All right, so we'll do power button and volume down. Yeah, these buttons are impossible to see. Power button and volume down. And then do you just hold volume down as if it was home button? We'll see. We'll just let it go in DFU though. I'm holding volume down. Is that how you do it? Oh, okay. Let's do restore. Restore and update. God damn it. Now I'm going to have the latest fucking update. God damn it. God damn it. All right, that is now it is restoring, and we will see if it comes back to home button land. I hope that Michael Oberdick tried this, because I think it would really suck if it was like, yeah, you can't switch the home button, except for if you restore it. Then it's fine. That would be really funny. Okay. Check the home button strip. Nope. I'd be really frustrated right now. Really? Why? It's just fun. It's just science. Fun watching her try when people are telling her on chat. Chat is hard to follow while working. She'll see it eventually. Yeah, she'll figure it out eventually. iPad rehab. I'm not sure I want a girlfriend. I'm unwilling to lower my standards for sure. Now that is a sad and lonely way of thinking. There's I mean, what standards are we talking about here? I think that it is, I think that being open is really important to adventure and being open to having a sense of fun, being an interesting person and cultivating relationships wherever you go. Cultivating male friendships, I think, is really important in order to generate enough of an interesting life that you would be attractive to somebody else. But I don't believe in all of this standard stuff. I think that's just sad. I think the minimum standards would be someone who is trustworthy and someone who is, I think everything beyond that is preference. So you could say, I prefer that someone is smart, and I prefer that someone is funny, and I prefer that someone has a sense of adventure. And then, after that, I can not worry about tiny conflicts. I think that it's important to realize that that two people will never be 100% compatible. And whatever kind of little annoying things that you might find about someone early on are going to become incredibly major annoying things down the road. I think that what's important is learning how to have conflict. And the most important predictor of a healthy and long-lasting relationship is how you handle those inevitable conflicts, even if they're tiny conflicts, like you just threw your jacket on the floor and I totally cleaned up this foyer. That's super annoying. How you handle that, learning to be able to handle conflict without attacking someone. You always do that. That's a mean thing to say, and it's not necessary. Learning how to handle conflict without personal attacks, learning how to not be defensive, and learning how to work things out in a way that's kind of face-saving for both of you. That is really the things that you are the real deal breakers, I think. All right. That's why if you break your home button, you'll lose both. And even if you want to place it, it will not function. Okay, good. Here's Michael Oberdick. I reset one yesterday with the original home button after moving back and forth from devices. It will work. Well, I know this. I mean, I'd be stunned if this didn't work. I would think this would work. But what I want to know is if you transfer and then restore, so it comes awake from restore with the now somebody else's home button that's an original home button, but it belongs to somebody else. If you restore with a non-native home button in place, does it still not recognize it? That's what I want to know. Michael Oberdick, what's the answer to that? No need to let bloodsuckers into your life. Oh, Jesus Christ. Now I have a feeling that Lewis did that fucking stream on hating, like I'm afraid he will. Let's see. Unless Apple has gone Uberdick. I'm thinking the home button is toast. Why would it be toast? It's not toast. There's no way. Let's see. Is this relationship advice or iPhone advice? It's relationship advice. Duh. Gym closes in 40. Standards now prevent misery later. It's not standards. It's about learning how to relate to someone. No one is going to be a perfect match that's compatible in every way, in which case it would be super boring. It doesn't do anything. What do you mean it doesn't do anything? It doesn't do anything. I've been arguing making up with my better half for 24 years, says Kevin. Marriage is great. I would be lost without my wife. It's not for everyone, though. This is taking forever to fucking restore, that's for sure. Discussions are about what is right, arguments about who is right. I like that. Discussions are about what is right, arguments are about who is right. Good thing to remember in a relationship. Yes. Hey, Lewis, what do you think about people who make having green versus blue chat bubbles in iMessage a big deal? There's nothing to think about that. That is, if that's a big deal to somebody, ask why. You know, there's no like answer to that without that. Home button does not work still after a reset. So you mean that you did restore, not reset, but you restored it. So restore, DFU restore. So not recovery, but DFU restored an iPhone 7 with a non-native but working in another device home button, and it did not have home button function. Yes? Okay. Let's see. Louis Rossman, only till you find that right girl. Yeah. What if I enjoy my time by myself too much? Being an introvert and enjoying time by yourself is fantastic. But you still get lonely. Stay single. Sell iPhone cases. Hashtag find Michael Oberdick. Find Mrs. Oberdick. That's so funny. 225 feels heavy. This sucks. I'm sorry. That does suck. 125 feels heavy for me if it makes you feel any better. No one stays entirely the same anyhow. New quirks develop over time. That's exactly right. I restored, says Michael Olberdick, and the device will come on. Oh my God, this is taking forever. Congratulations, your phone has been unlocked. How about just fucking start and tell me whether or not the goddamn home button works or not? That's all I want to know. I just want to know one little thing. I mean, this is enough reason to just throw this phone in the trash. Who can stand to just spend their... Oh, now it's done. Wow, did you see that? Hello, press home to open. Okay. Huh. It's not... Doesn't know. Damn. Look at that. It does not know it. Interesting. So it seems like it has some sort of a... Well, this is kind of interesting, like with this sort of like, oh, how can you damage the home button stuff? Like, that if you, I don't know, like had some small, like blowing a backlight fuse on the 6S or something like that, that some sort of small problem would, if you weren't disconnecting the battery, for example, and you're just like pulling off the screen and then you're plugging in the new screen, you know, if you shorted at least this line to ground, maybe even just for a second. I mean, it's possible that there's a blown filter on that line. That's definitely a possibility. I wish I cared enough right now to find that out. But I don't think I do. Wow, I'm surprised. All right, so there you go. So here's what we learned. We have learned that we studied the iPhone 7 schematic at the home button connector. And we compared that to what we already know about how home button function works in the 6S. And we identified a few different lines that were new in the 7 that could potentially be carrying the data from the home button, which under our physical exam, we found that the home button is no longer a clicky button, but instead there is a chip there that converts the analog capacitance of your fingers into a digital signal, and then that is going to go up the flex and turn into signals that come through the connector. And so we think that we've got at least a hypothesis of which of those lines are carrying that information. And then we set about doing experiments to see, well, what happens if you just ground that line, or what I originally wanted to do, which would just be to break that line and leave a hole in it by removing a filter. So what we did, we had time to do one line, and the line that we tested was called, let's see what his name was again, because I kind of forgot it. Yep, the line that we tested is called AOP to Mesa blanking enable. AOP to Mesa blanking enable. And then that turns into an I2C line, which honestly, now that I think about it, I think that that line as a 0 really makes a lot of other things zeros. If you kind of remember that, like I'm pretty sure that line turns into that other AOP Mesa line, that it was an I2C line that also went to like proximity sensor and stuff like that. So I think we probably did more by grounding it than we intended to do, and that we probably should have pulled the board and pulled the filter to just make it be open rather than grounded, because we turned a lot of stuff probably into a 0. But in any event, so what we learned is that simply grounding that line one time and then allowing the phone to boot took out both fingerprint sensor function and home button function. After we relieved that short to ground, then that we still had no fingerprint sensor or home button function. And then even after we did a recovery mode restore, so this was not a DFU restore, it was recovery mode restore, that didn't come back. So I think the only next thing to do would be to do a DFU restore. So we could try that, and that might be a little bit faster. Oh shit, that's not how you do it. How do you do it? Power and down volume. All right, let's see if we can prompt it to come back up in DFU mode, which should have a blank display. We're listening for USB connect. Right now it's in DFU mode. So that's a deeper form of recovery. Restore iPhone. Restore. It's restoring. But I'm surprised. That's interesting. Check the filter. Oh, I'm not going to check the filter tonight. But honestly, this is what I absolutely love about thinking and using your brain and experimenting and doing science and being a researcher. I mean, there's really no difference between this kind of work and what you might do if you were a grad student in a lab and your project was, trying to understand how some change in the way a protein folds is going to affect the uptake of a nutrient by a cell. It's exactly the same. So if you like this kind of stuff, you're meant to be a scientist, and you should go read all about that. Go volunteer in a lab, and anyone can have a good idea at any time. And so do that. If you are not, if you don't want to go spend your life doing science and you don't really think you'll fit with a job at the end of the day, then do this kind of stuff. This stuff is a super fun way to kind of accomplish the same goal, which is problem solving and doing science. So I'm really run out of time now, but I'm gonna make my stopping point be what happens after DFU restore here. Then we'll stop. But I will pick this back up because I think it's really fun to see what happens if you take the board out and you look to see whether or not the filter that's in that line is still intact or not, and look to see, kind of map out what happens with other lines and look to see what kind of voltages or signals are on those lines. I think it's fun. So if there's interest in doing that, then we can definitely revisit that. Jessa takes in stray phones. I do. Michael Oberdick, I missed it. What happened? She unhooked while power? Nope. Pop something on home button data line? No. We chose a line, which the line that we chose through using our brain, the one that we thought was most likely to control home button function was AOP to MESA blanking enable. So that line, which is pin number 19 at the home button connector, we picked that line and then we intentionally grounded it by soldering from that pin a jumper to ground to say, what happens if you turn all the data in that line into a 0? So instead of ones and zeros, or instead of a flat 1 or 0, it's always 0. And we booted the phone with it just having a 0 in that line and said, what happens? And the answer was, you have no fingerprint sensor and you have no home button function. So that was the case there. And then when we relieved the short to ground, took the jumper off, it still had no home button or fingerprint sensor. Then when we did a recovery mode restore, it still had no fingerprint sensor or home button. And the last thing here is seeing what happens after we do a DFU deep restore if it still has no fingerprint sensor or home button. And that'll be our stop point. But then we'll pick this back up again later. Check the filter. Check it. Hard luck. It's not luck. It's fucking science. Like you can't get mad at a scientific result. It's all interesting. It is what happens if you do this, A or B. It's not like A is good and B is bad. It's just information. So it who cares? This is just science. Okay, let's see. Lewis, America don't need no science. What? Science sucks. I just want to make money. That's not even true. That's not even remotely how you really are. I don't think so. I know that you like to make money, but I think that you are a scientist at heart. Did Jessa rip the home button out while the phone was on? Nope, I did not. I don't care if the fingerprint doesn't work, but when I replace the home button, I expect the home button to still continue working. I demand it, says David. Well, David, you might want to consider never buying an iPhone again. God damn it, Lewis, you need to have passion. Escape New York. Yeah, he's in a bad mood because he hates his GPU work, and it does suck. All right. You won't get help home button. That mean the fingerprint is working. What? Science is cool if you're a scientist. Science is always cool. Quiz. iPhone 6s GPU and CPU are both shorted. No, they're not. Oh, I've already removed the processor and the short is gone. They were never shorted, and now you have a big fucking problem. Throw that phone away. Stick it back on there. Oh my God. They did just FYI so that you never do that again. If your method of detecting a short on the GPU power and the CPU power lines is by using continuity testing, that is the same thing as saying I'm using a little pH stick to measure my pool pH, and if it'll either turn pink or yellow, and if it turns yellow, that means there's piss in the pool. No, it doesn't mean that. It's a qualitative test. So those lines were almost certainly not shorted. But they are. It's ruined now. It's fucked now. All right. Take that shit to the Genius Bar. Oh, yeah, totally. He's totally going to go to the Genius Bar. Looks like at a party, I'd be talking more to Jessa. That's right. Paul Daniels is on the heart-wrenching journey of realizing over the last few weeks that his thoughts really align more with Jessa and not with Lewis, which is really hard because he is a big Lewis fan. Still is. All right. I'm squatting right now, Lewis. I think I can win at this one. What are you squatting, Michael Oberdick? I bought a weight belt. I'm excited. All right, here we go. We passed our DFU restore and nothing. Boop, boop, boop. So nothing's going on. Nothing's going on. I mean, I'd be really interested, like just to the idea that Apple has this amazing machine that can just, make this shit work again. All right, so I think that's probably, this is like way too long. Let me see what else is in the chat, and then let's get the fuck out of here. The only good scientific results are the results that pay. Oh, boo! No, just no. That's just heartbreaking. I would love for you to go spend a summer just being a volunteer in a lab somewhere. And I mean, you're really good at analytical problem solving, and I think that you could get into it, and it would make you way less shallow. It would be awesome. All right. Michael Oberdick says he's squatting. You and Lewis are great. I watch both of you, especially you, Jessa. There's always piss in the pool. Yeah, that's right. Those little kid pools at Great Wolf Lodge are 90% urine for sure. 4:15, 4x4 on this lovely Friday evening. I normally listen to rock music. Tonight I listen to you, which is funny that I normally listen to Lewis's live streams at the gym, which honestly I think I'm gonna have to stop doing because it's kind of distracting because he'll say things that I want to respond to in the chat, but I'm in the middle of some set, so it's kind of, I should stop that. The nearest Genius Bar is in Buffalo, New York, about a 2-hour drive away. I got a Genius Bar 10 minutes away, which is great. Swimming pools, the original transgender bathroom. I like that, Bobby Gordon. I don't talk to people at parties or go to parties. Oh, stop that. Parties sound like prison. Lewis Rossman, same here. Well, there's nothing wrong with not being a person that likes parties. I don't necessarily like parties either, but there's no reason to say, well, I don't really like parties. It's really hard to walk into a bar and make a new connection. It's really hard. And that's why when I still want to kind of make a dedicated how to get a girl video. But if I was going to make one, just preview, it would be number one, cultivate your own personal interests so that you have interesting things to talk about. That means read. That means read stuff, read opinion pieces, make opinions, think about things, and that'll make you want to connect and talk with people to kind of share ideas. Develop hobbies, especially hobbies that are really amenable to meeting other people. So for example, video gaming online in your house is really not. But if you converted that to strategy board gaming where you have to get out and meet other people to play, and they are also looking to meet other people, that's a really great one. So, think about what kind of interests the person that you would like to be with might have, and then go to those places and develop those hobbies themselves. It's really easy if you're doing something to talk to somebody or not talk to somebody. You have something to do. So if you're at, like, for example, when I first came to Rochester, we used to go to pug dog meetups. There's a meetup for everything. If you're into pug dogs, go to the pug dog meetup, where you instantly have something in common with everybody there. And then you can either naturally talk to people or not. It doesn't really matter because you're there to do something else. So develop your own interests so that you're an interesting person. And then number two, it would be talk to people and cultivate your same-sex relationships. So I think it's really, really difficult, and it's weird, and it's just too hard to be a single person walking into a group of people and expecting to make a connection. That's just an odd dynamic, and it's not going to work. But what's an easy dynamic is if you are part of a group. If you especially just have one wingman, one buddy that is with you, then it makes it really easy to make those connections. So for example, let's say I'm going to cultivate my interest and I'm going to be interested in bowling. I'm going to start going bowling. I'm going to be an awesome bowler. I'm going to bowl. If you go bowling by yourself, that may be fine for a while, but you need to cultivate your male relationships so you can go bowling with a male friend. So if you go bowling by yourself, hoping to maybe interact with women that like bowling, it's going to be weird. You're a weird guy going bowling by yourself. That's weird. But if you're there with a buddy, the two of you are going bowling together, and maybe you'll start up a conversation with somebody and maybe you won't, but it's no longer weird because it's natural for you to be there with your friend, and it's natural for some single girl to be there with her friend, and that's a really natural way to strike up a conversation based on common interests. So you need to cultivate your male relationships so that at least you have something going on, something you're looking forward to, so that it kind of takes the pressure off, and it doesn't really matter if you meet someone that is the opposite sex or not. It doesn't really matter. So that would be tip number 2. So let's I'm gonna hook everybody I know up. Let's see. Volunteer. Yeah, see, you gotta just sort of, you need to suspend disbelief on a few things and just try some stuff. I'd sooner give to charity. I think, Lewis, you should be proud of me for what I said to the Girl Scout cookie lady, which was basically, hell fucking no. I will not allow my daughters to participate in or support a business enterprise that's based on using little girls to peddle some other person's product for cents on the dollar in a way that doesn't make business sense. I can't have them be a part of that. And if you want for me to come talk about business and strategy with the little girls of the Daisy Troop, I'll be happy to do that, and we can organize a business fundraiser that does make sense, where they learn a little bit about dollars and cents. So I said that instead of when your cookie orders are due, make sure you sell as many as you can, so that way you can get like a sticker. Because Lewis, I remember asking him way back, hey, will you buy Girl Scout cookies from, here's a picture of my cute neighbor. Look at my cute little neighbor. She's a Girl Scout. Will you buy Girl Scout cookies? And he was like, fuck no. And I thought that was really cold at the time. But no, I agree. Jessa has the misery gauge going on back there. Yes. You made me laugh mid-set earlier. Yeah, see what I'm talking about? It's hard. It's kind of like a workout is a long time. Like my workouts can take 3 hours. So these long live streams are just like podcasts, and they're kind of fun to listen to. But then they're distracting as well. All right, let's see. Just left a note on my ticket, Jessa. Sorry the iPad mini I sent in is causing so many issues. No clue. It hasn't come across my radar screen, so it must not have that many issues. It would be on Jean and Christie's radar screen. I don't think any of them are here that are minis with a problem. iPhone 7 that have new thing that mean if home button is damaged, you will get auto help home button. Yes, assistive touch. If you don't get it, that means fingerprint is working, so you need to take home button off. What? I don't know about that. Introverts for the win, and now I'll be over here at home with my dog. You know, one thing I did learn is that introverts doesn't really mean likes to be lonely or likes to be by themselves. Introverts, I've learned this as an adult, that introverts mean that when you go to like a big group of people, like a big party, introverts can do that, and they can interact with people, and they can be engaging and funny and talk to a bunch of people at once. But they leave that feeling drained. So after that sort of social exposure, they need to kind of recharge their batteries at home. Extroverts do the same exact thing, but that energizes them. Being with people makes them feel alive. And that's sort of what makes extroverts extroverts and introverts introverts, I think. Let's see. There's church parties too. Oh, I remember the old church parties. Paul, I shouldn't have given him a Dremel. That was a bad idea. Who did you give a Dremel to? Jason? I don't give anonymous guests power tools anymore. That's a good general policy. Jessa, helping repair nerds get laid worldwide. That's right. That's why I wanted to do the Jessa and team, because I want to ask my team as well. Like, you know, they're all women. Like, we gotta recognize that our audience is 96% male, and I did get asked a question about like what do I do? Everybody at work is married, and I live with my mom. Sunday said, move out. I have a friend that works at the Apple store, and he says there's no such thing as a machine that pairs the home button. He said they just replaced the phone. Your friend is working at an Apple store that is not authorized to have that machine. It is absolutely true. It is something they have at my Apple store here in Victor, New York. But not every Apple store has that, and none of the AASPs have that machine. Let's see. Strategy board gamers are not girls. That is a little bit true, but not always true. I go play strategy board games, for example. And when I go there, I'm not the only chick there. So, here's the other thing. Here's the other hobby that I would recommend if you are back at stage 1 where you need to kind of broaden your own hobbies. This is what every male on the planet should do if you need a interest to pursue. Pursue learning how to partner dance. So that means go to the classes, show up by yourself, that's all fine, because they always need guys, where you learn how to do West Coast swing. If you learn how to do even the basic just rumba, cha-cha, that kind of stuff. If you learn how to lead ballroom dance, and especially the fun ones that aren't the old people dances like swing dance, then you will be a hot commodity at any event. There's always going to be more women than men, and especially for something like partner dancing. It's really easy to learn how to dance if you're the girl, because all you need to know is have a really strong frame so that you can be led, so that when he pushes you this way that you feel that, rather than just be like, floppy, so that's all you have to do. And then you kind of have to know the basic beat and move your feet. He does everything else. So there's a lot of chicks there, and they will dance with anybody. They will dance with the fucking doorman. Like, it doesn't matter. So if you learn that skill, you have got it made. Lewis says, I'm interested in phase coherent speaker systems and right-wing politics. The phase coherent speaker systems isn't really an interest. That's just a particular one page of kind of personal backstory that you have. I think you could say that you're interested in listening to good music, which is true. So that's pretty broad. That means go listen to good music and go hang out with the other audiophiles and things like that. I mean, who doesn't love to listen to good music? I mean, Lewis's fucking apartment music made me literally cry. I mean, it is incredible. That affects everyone. You like to go to musicals. That's, there's going to be people that want to talk about that stuff and do that stuff. And right-wing politics. Right-wing politics is definitely a big interest of yours, but I'm not sure you'd really be into the women that are going to be interested in that kind of stuff. Develop some more interests. You have a lot. You have, like, pursue your kind of veganism thing. You'll find some stuff. All right. That I can't listen to that guy anymore. Find you a girlfriend. I already told you what to do. I told you specifically what to do last night. You ignored my advice. That was your path to happiness. You didn't listen. Kentucky is a hotbed for right-wing gals. Yeah. You'll find as many women at a strategy board game meetup as you will at a Libertarian Party speech. And I know a lot of women that believe that, that kind of think that. They're not as women hating as you, but I think that you'd find some of that. Would it be appropriate to show up to the said dance class on a Japanese super sports bike, or would that be seen as too juvenile? Well, how old are you? I think it totally depends on your age. If you're 70 and you show up on a Japanese super sports bike, whatever the hell that is, I'll assume it's some kind of motorcycle, then no, you're a creepy guy who's trying to be young. If you are 23 and you show up on the same bike, then that's totally fine. That's completely depends on age. Women don't like the way men dance. That's a really judgmental thing to say, and this is exactly kind of my point on beyond rule strategy number 1, 2, and 3 to get girls. It's when you do find someone that you would want to talk to, and you're going to have a conversation, and then you're going to consider dating them. Like I have like some core values that I believe in, and one of them is to always give people the chance to respond. And I believe in this firmly, and I think that I hear a lot of times where you presuppose what someone will or won't do. And I don't think that's a good way to be. So, well, they're always going to think this, or they're always going to do this, or she's not going to want to do that. Give them a chance. Don't project your opinion of how someone is going to respond. Maybe you're right. And if you're right, then you can be like, see, I told you, ha! That's okay, fair enough. But you never know. And people may surprise you, and that's where you'll really learn something and you'll really have a chance to make a connection. So ditch that idea of assuming that you know how someone is going to respond to something that you do. And give them, give each person is unique, and give people a chance. So that would be one of my sort of major core values, is giving people a chance to respond. So, but women don't like the way men dance, that's presupposing someone else's response, and therefore not allowed. I like women. Women never like the way men... See, and he does this all the time. Avoid the retardation of learning to dance for women. It's not for women, it's with women. There's really nothing that is more fascinating than a man that, even if he doesn't really know his way and he doesn't have a natural rhythm, men that are at least willing to be adventuresome enough to try something new and to learn a few moves. You know, you only need to learn like 2 or 3 moves in a particular dance in order to go somewhere and have a really good time, and to just be honest with yourself. You know, hey, girl that I don't know, who was here at a West Coast swing dance party, you know, or dance event. I've been learning this. You know, do you want to? Can I step on your toes for around this song? Of course she will say sure, because she wants to support you being adventuresome and learning something new. No one would say no to that. And then you can talk to somebody, and it's a really easy way to make a connection. And, you know, after that you can walk away and never see her again, or you can say, that was fun. I'm sorry that I was so boring with my 2 moves that we learned last Friday. Where did you learn how to do this? It's really easy to kind of make those connections. I need Sunday's input on this subject. Yes, when Sunday went home, but we need to do our how to get a girl video and do that. Just have confidence. Who gives a fuck? I think that's pretty good. I disagree, says Chris Long. Women love the way that I dance. Yeah, Chris Long. Love the way that you dance. Watch Lauren Southern go full feminist and have the left side of head shaved with blue hair dye. Nope. I think I am going to go the fuck home. Yay! And work on my new website, which I'm super excited about, and see what's going on. I think I've charged up everything that I need to invoice, and I will pick this back up, and we can do some more. We can do another sort of in the lab day with the iPhone 7 home button, you know, coming up when we have time. All right, let's see. Is there anything else I want to talk to? Send a photo of sweaty Oberdick to Sunday. That would be pretty funny. What do you think about game and pickup artistry like real social dynamics? You know, I think that women appreciate a witty pickup line. And even when it's clear that it's a pickup line, you know, even if you said something like, "Hi, insert witty pickup line here," you know, it's fine. But if it's something that is just over the top, gross, and you know, that's, yeah, I'm making a new website with this thing called Wix. I don't know if you've heard of it. Some lady asked me to dance once, and I said, "No, thanks. I have a headache." True story. Well, that's just mean. Go the fuck home. Yeah, exactly. Disconnect the home button and see if assistive touch turns on. I'm a girl, and I agree with Jessa. See, now I have no idea if you're actually a girl, which I think is fantastic. I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt, because that's another thing that is a core value. But the chance that you're actually Louis Rossman is pretty high. Unfortunately high, which is sad. But I will still give you the benefit of the doubt. All right. Came for iPhone 7 home button, staying for the women. Don't use Wix. I'm not using Wix. Jeez. All right. I'm going to hit stop on the stream and hope that you guys all have a fantastic weekend.